Sparking Zero made it apparent months in advance that what-ifs would be a key selling point of the game's story mode, and the effort put into many of them is truly impressive. The big question is how good are each of them, and would it shake up my video on the best and worst what-ifs in Dragon Ball games? For clarification, I'll only count the routes tread as their own arcs, as the alternate outcomes to some battles are just the typical they won because they were built different in this timeline, I guess. These will be rated primarily on their consistency to the rules, characters and themes of the series, with some additional points towards creativity. Without further ado, we start with Goku's story, and the first one is side by side. This one started with a perfect divergence in showing how Muten Roshi and Kuririn could have contributed to taking down Raditz, as well as it not going overboard by acknowledging Piccolo was still needed for it. Goku making up for not being taught by Kaiol through sparring with everyone else is a bit more of a stretch. Not completely contradictory when sparring partners tend to yield greater results, but still fairly contentious. When there's a similar scenario, I'd say gives a more accurate portrayal of the divergence. At least it had a creative change to the battle with Vegeta in Chaozu, having more of a significant contribution than he's had to anything since the 22nd Tenkaichi Budokai. Vegeta having never needed to talk about his plans to go to Namek for the Dragon Balls, and being provided proof of Earth's being real, also sets up a good reasoning for Frieza's army invading Earth. Though a Genki Dama from what Genki Goku could gather against Vegeta, plus some donations from his friends being strong enough to obliterate Freeza, is a big reach. It could have at least gone the DBZ Movie 7 approach, of having him draw Genki from the sun. Also, the ending is a bit overly optimistic of many foes for them to face, as there's no reason for Cold to not simply destroy her from space when he finds out what happened to Freeza. Started off brilliant, but quickly fumbled at many points. A 5 or 6 out of 10. Though similar, pushing the limit is of far better quality. Not only does Goku being limited by what can be accomplished, sparring with Piccolo, make relying on his biological Saiyan power trait necessary to defeat Nappa, a far more accurate take on events, but provides more interesting character growth in Vegeta being confronted by the Super Saiyan, causing him to go through the mentality when preparing to face 19 and 20 early, and it making sense he'd defeat Freeza when arriving on Namek, with him giving Freeza no time to transform. This leading to Super Saiyan Vegeta in his Saiyan arc attire is not just great aesthetically, but an amazing conclusion to a story arc centered on Saiyan biology and ideals, as Vegeta comes to gain the desire to improve earnestly and learn what makes Goku different. So he also went through part of his character arc against Buu early too. From consistency to creativity, it has almost everything you'd want from a what if. 10 out of 10. The final one for Goku is the change in future. 16, 17 and 18 taking the better the devil you know approach to team up and destroy Cell is fine enough, but it's after this that things become hit or miss. Goku playing mind games to get the advantage on 18, despite his inferior power, is a good idea, but makes him still capable of fending off 17 and then 16 very much a stretch, when it's not as if they're the only ones who would come away with damage against Cell. A good idea, but needed a few more factors to make it seamless. 6 out of 10. Vegeta has 2, one being Parental Bond, where he decides to master Super Saiyan on his first go in the Room of Spirit and Time. This is an excellent setup for what if, but it's just amounting to Vegeta taking Gohan's place, despite the same Shugyo being enough that Goku knew any more of the same regimen would be overtraining, provides a pretty lazy reasoning for this, especially when it should be benefiting Trunks more if anything. Great idea for What If, but not so much the type this game was trying to convey. 5 out of 10. Vegeta's other one is number 1 spot, which is simply him not allowing Babidi to control him, getting rid of both Dabura and Babidi, and then defeating Goku when both are fighting in their base form. The first part is the logical conclusion to Vegeta doing this, but defeating Goku when he had to rely on Babidi to fight him on equal footing, and this shouldn't just apply to Super Saiyan 2, makes it a fairly lazy conclusion. Another 5 out of 10. Gohan's What If, the strongest warrior, is the one that got people talking once we got around to playing it, and for good reason. Gohan's rage and Shugyo helping him become far stronger in little time in Super, makes him managing to stop Golden Freeza when applying himself a lot more a great start, and his desire to protect others, leading to him becoming a more active martial artist, is consistent with his character, and honestly a better route than we got with the flip-flopping in Super. The big addition of this is Zamasu becoming Gohan Black, which not only makes a lot more sense when Gohan's ultimate state was just as much a gift from the gods as Goku's god forms, if not more. That would irk Zamasu, but an alternate decision far better than what we got in the actual series. Although there were a few good ideas with Goku Black, such as Zamasu having more in common in his actions to a Saiyan, whereas Goku is ironically closer to the ideals the gods desire. The idea of a villain inverting Goku's positive traits or reflecting his negative traits had been done constantly with past villains, including those that take the surface level approach of an evil Goku doppelganger. Doing all that with Gohan though is far less tread territory and ripe for interesting ideas, with his even more parent-kind nature, but also greater arrogance. To make Gohan Black a revamp in the right direction, especially when trying to harness Gohan's great talent, is a perfect weapon. It also helps display Gohan's raw potential in being capable of overpowering an even stronger anime-fused Zamasu, and his competence in having the Mafuba and Talisman at the ready, unlike his father. Though in fairness, this would have been the case if Super Goku was written with the same intelligence as his Z self. Simply put, this What If is fan service done right, in respecting Gohan having a linear dynamic arc, utilising what the series shows of his potential, and changing the Black plot point in a way that adds more to the concept than Super did. The only nitpicks I have are that Gohan using any Super Saiyan form when having access to his ultimate power would be unnecessary when the latter has greater ki and stamina, just for Gohan to take Goku's place in the first battle with Black, and Black telling Gohan what happened to Videl and Pan would have been the perfect point to bring in Beast Gohan, but it being DLC created a missed opportunity. That gripe aside, an easy 9.5 out of 10. Piccolo's What If, a mentor's guidance, is not only fairly coherent in Piccolo's time with Gohan in the Room of Spirit and Time, helping Piccolo out a lot, but not enough to be any more than the warm-up for Cell, being very consistent, but reveals more information on Goku's heart virus. That remains one of the most mysterious things in the franchise. It's revealed here that taking the medicine while it's there, but has yet to produce severe symptoms, won't work, with Goku essentially being useless until it subsides. It's also a good display of Piccolo's character growth in having gone beyond the simple advice he had when first tutoring Gohan of don't get killed, to being as helpful in his growth as Goku's nurturing was, especially if choosing the train Gohan's mind option. That makes Piccolo's role in this scenario very earned. 8 out of 10. Future Trunks has 3 different what ifs. Shining Hope is essentially what if Trunks learned the Mafuba, which is basically a complete victory, when more prepared than Super Goku, and Black's fate was sealed with Vegeta's improvements, without a chance to escape. It's also very fulfilling narratively, in both sticking true to the original manga's message of Trunks protecting his world, and showing the payoff of his activities in the past, of Vegeta helping him push himself, much as Goku did for Gohan Gohan against Cell. A solid divergence that gives Trunks the protagonist spot in a way that doesn't break the rules of the power system like the Super anime did, and respects Trunks' narrative role more than the Super manga. 10 out of 10. The next two are essentially what if Trunks stayed in the past and was in the Tournament of Power. The Inherited Pride route is okay in presenting Trunks' bond with Vegeta, and facing the Universe 6 Saiyans, having him change his mindset for the wish, in acknowledgement of his father's greater compassion than in the past. Being able to help out Vegeta against Toppo isn't exactly impossible when Saiyan hybrid potential can be an instant plot buff, but a bit more debatable than the first part. Still, a very solid narrative that helps showcase this father-son bond. 7 out of 10. The alternate route for this is Embarking Towards Tomorrow, which is the best version of it, as, although seeing Trunks fight side by side with Vegeta is nice. We've already had this in the Future Trunks arc, whereas this embarks on new, interesting territory, in Trunks having to put aside his trauma and work with 17, acknowledging how different he is from his future self, to the point 17's assumed self-destruction rarely affected Trunks. It allows Trunks to play a solid support role and have a very profound ending, in Trunks and 17 parting on good terms. 10 out of 10. Next are Frieza's What Ifs. The path that leads to the 4 different routes of Frieza Force joins the Fray is interesting in Beerus's desires for Earth's food, forcing him to comply with Bulma to save Goku and Vegeta, with Frieza put in the position where he can't attack Earth, but is also free to expand his business and grow stronger for a year. It's where the choices of Frieza's partner for the Tournament of Power come into play though, that things become more hit or miss. Starting with the Cooler route, I'm guessing Cooler would have done some image training in Hell since day 1 to get to the level where he can take on Hit. Accepting that, it's an okay what if in this Cooler definitely being able to help out Team Universe 7. 6 out of 10. The Cold Dior route has a bit more to it, in Frieza fighting Kale, Caulifla and Kefla, but Cold being defeated by Kale automatically makes him seem very irrelevant here, and it's just Frieza hogging all the spotlight. Some may find issue with him being able to easily defeat anime Kefla alone, but with his army's resources and already being a step up from his usual self by a year, it's okay when you consider what he has access to in the Super manga. 6 out of 10. The route with the Ginyu Tokusentai is a big step down in quality though, leaving aside that multiple people can only be revived with one wish within a year, which would only bring Ginyu back. Frieza's argument on strategy being important will only make up for the power creep with Ginyu and Gurda's ability, whereas the other 3 don't have much to bring to the table, as well as make it difficult to determine the rest of Universe 7's team. Goku, Vegeta and Gohan are obvious, but then is it Piccolo or 17? Because if it's the former, that's going to make the finale against Jiren a lot more difficult. On top of that, you don't actually get to use the Tokusentai in the scenario, with them essentially just being cheerleaders as you solo Ribrianne and Toppo, and makes why the full squad are there beyond aesthetics even more confusing. Also, unlike the previous one, Frieza defeating Hakaishin Toppo without his gold form is a step too far. 2 out of 10. Last is Zarbon and Dodoria, which has similar problems to Ginyu, in them not bring much to the table, even if assuming Frieza put them in a room of spirit and time and gave them same regimen as Tagoma, when even the opponents they are up against would be a challenge to base Goku and the like. Ultimately, another one of Frieza realistically soloing while the other 2 act as glorified cheerleaders. That really makes you question why a scenario of Frieza being active for far longer in Super didn't instead result in a new spin-off of the Broly arc as a what if. 4 out of 10. We then move on to Goku Black's Proof of Justice, which is essentially what if Black and Zamasu didn't fuse, something that could have been a lot smoother if it was also what if Goku and Vegeta didn't fuse either, when any plans of getting stronger after near death and healing with Saiyan power becomes irrelevant when you've got Vegeta chasing you down, along with Vegeta not instantly getting rid of Black being a big suspension of disbelief compared to, say, a scenario where Black got rid of Goku before going to back up Zamasu. It's simply a very uninspired route when still sticking to Trunks' timeline, as opposed to this successful Zero Mortal plan expanding to conflicts with other universes, such as Black prepping enough with Zamasu's help he can take on the Pride Troopers sometime later, as he'd have to, and somehow win for it to succeed. It also doesn't help the victory comes about from Super Goku being even more absent-minded than normally, in never even thinking of pressing the Xenor button when having a good opportunity. A scenario that falls into the he wins because he's built different lazy writing I mentioned before, and a missed opportunity, 3 out of 10. Finally, is Jiren's proof of strength. Essentially, if Roshi got more time to talk to him than in the manga, and if Jiren won, resulting in a change of heart in reviving the other universes to face Goku again. It helps show character growth from Jiren that was poorly handled in the anime, and has him act as more of a goal to surpass for Goku than current events in Super have allowed. Simple but effective, with the only downside being a lack of variety in the fights leading to the climax from the main route, beyond Roshi and the initial battle against 18. 7 out of 10. All that said, though the game did have its share of poor choices for what-ifs, there was only one I could say is absolutely terrible, and the ones handled well more than made up for them, with the best of them now dominating my revamped list of the best Dragon Ball game what-ifs. With the potential and execution of many of them, I hope the DLC offers some level of story expansion, when things such as Superhero or Daima could provide some potential for the stories that more could have been done with, such as Piccolo's. Thank you if having watched all the way through this video on the subject of what-ifs. Maybe you'd like to see some of my own, and subscribe if new here. Anyway, see you later.